Hi everybody, my name is Louise McGuane and I'm the founder of the Chapelgate Irish Whisky Company. I couldn't really let the inaugural Dublin Whisky Festival go by without having some part in it. So we're about 3 weeks away or 2 weeks away from bottling our first Irish whisky, the Gale. Even though we're not in bottle yet, we're not exactly on market yet, I just wanted to be a part of this amazing event, and a very big thank you to the Irish Whisky Museum for hosting us. So big round of applause. We have 3 samples tonight. We're going to start with some of our new fill Irish whisky that is maturing down in County Clare. We founded the company 2 years ago, and it's been a very long road to get to this point. I have been away from Ireland for 25 years, or 20 years really, and I came back to move home on my family farm in County Clare to start this business. I was always a big fan of Irish whisky. I've worked my whole career in big multinationals, and I wanted to come home and do something effectively to save our family farm, because I'm not a farmer and neither is my brother. So I started looking around for things to do, and bearing in mind I've worked in the drinks industry for 20 years, I figured I'd use my skill set, which is the drinks industry effectively. So I figured I'd start a distillery like everybody else. I was going to start a farm to glass distillery on our family farm, and then I realised that maybe that wasn't necessary, because I discovered the story, and I discovered a man called JJ Corry, who was born in the parish of in Clonredon, the townland of Clonredon, which is about a mile away from my house and our farm. He was a whisky bonder, and he was operational from the 1890s until his death in 1932. And he did what everybody on the West Coast did back then. You know, he had a little small mercantile shop, a little kind of pub come grocer, and he sold everything from flour to guns to ammunition, and of course he sold alcohol, lots of alcohol. I know he sold rum from the Caribbean, wine from Bordeaux, port. He marketed his port, in fact, as invalid port, which is quite prescient. But he also sold whiskey. And he would have sourced his whiskey from local distilleries, most likely Limerick in his case, because there was a steam packet that connected the two towns. He then brought it back to his shop, put it into the casks, whatever casks he had sort of lying around, and left it there to mature. And then when requested, he would custom blend it for his customers. But he also had his own blend called Corry's Special Malt. So I looked at that and I thought, okay, well, whiskey bonding doesn't seem to exist anymore. Why did it die out? And of course, it became victim of the tragedy that happened in Irish whiskey sort of around the 1930s. It just completely died out when the distilleries effectively died out, and they cut off all the supply to bonders, because there would have been hundreds of JJ Corrys in hundreds of little towns and villages all over the country. So we have brought Irish whiskey bonding back. We are maturing Irish whisky, currently grain and malt, on our family farm in Cory Clare. And the sample that you all have in your hands right now is Hope. Anybody? You guys got samples? That sample is a 1 year and 3 month old grain whiskey. I've knocked it down to 40%, so it's not cask strength. But that will make part of our first release in about 5 years. It's maturing in our rack house on the farm. That's coming from an Old Forester cask. I source all of my casks directly from Louisville personally myself. Very juicy casks. The maturation conditions that we have are really interesting. You know, we're about a mile from the coast, and we're sandwiched between the Atlantic Ocean and the Shannon Estuary. We have about 4 seasons in one day. It's West Clare. We have crazy changes in barometric pressure. So I'm betting that the maturation conditions that my whiskey is sitting in is going to create something very, very unique. But it's a very big bet, because there hasn't really been regional styles of Irish whiskey for a very, very long time. So that's just come from the tank today. It's at about 46%, and it's a blend of 5% 26-year-old single malt, sherry hogshead, 27.5% 10-year-old single malt, 27.5% 16-year-old single malt, and then the remainder is 7-year-old grain. It's quite a complex blend, lots of fruit-forward, sort of fruity flavours. It's our first release, and we wanted it to be like a really classic fruit-forward Irish style of fruit bomb kind of whiskey, so that's what we want to deliver. So JJ Corry, he was bonder in Kilrush in the 1890s until his death in 1932. And he was, he had his little shop in Mercantile on Henry Street in Kilrush. Born in my parish, I discovered the brand and I met all of his sort of descendants and family and started to really research into what he did and the custom of whiskey bonding as well, and decided that it needed to come back to West Clare. So we've just resurrected JJ's brand, and we're, those are the whiskies we'll be releasing in the coming years. The market now in Irish whiskey is very volatile as well. It's volatile in a positive way. It's changing all the time. So in terms of planning, it's a very, very long game. It's a very, very long payoff. It's a game that you're in for life, effectively. This will be my last job ever. We incorporated the company in September 2015. It's 2 years, nearly to the day, I think, it will be coming out with our first release. So you just have to have the patience, you have to have the capital, and you have to plan appropriately as well in order to get to market. It's a very long commitment, and it's a big fiscal commitment as well. It's right in between the Shannon Estuary and the Atlantic Ocean, on top of a hill. Really interesting microclimate, like really briny air. 4 seasons in one day, it'll be full-on West Coast whiskey when we're done. But we have to wait for that. That'll take a while. I realised that with gin or with vodka or with anything you can release tomorrow, you need capex, you need people, you need marketing budget, you need focus. My thing is do one thing and do it really, really well, so we'll just be doing whiskey. We may look at doing a few collaborations with other distilleries on just one-off products, but we'll just exclusively be making whiskey.
And where in Clare did JJ come from?
He came from Clonredon. His home house is in Clonredon, and his great-grandnephew JJ Corry is still living in that house, and he came down and visited the casks there a few weeks ago. Had a sip. He's not a big whiskey drinker himself, but it's a little house in Clonredon, which is only about a mile and a half away from our house in Gower House. So it's on the border of Clare and Kilrush, but it's very squarely in the parish. Back to the ancestral home. Yeah, I'm living in the house that my grandmother was born in. Been inhabited by the family since pre-famine times.
Thank you very much,
You're
Louise.
very welcome.
It's very, very good, and it's privileged that Corry is the first to taste it here tonight.